Ernest Bogner and Lee Chisholm.
Okay, today is the 23rd of May, 2001. We're interviewing Mr. Thomas C. Hare at the Lexington Avenue Armory in Manhattan. My name is Wayne Clark. Mr. Hare, tell us where you were born.
I was born in the Bronx in 1923.
Okay.
March 4th.
And what was your mother and father's name?
My mother's name is Elizabeth. You want the maiden name?
Yeah, that's fine.
Elizabeth Mooney. And my father's name was Thomas Hare.
Uh-huh. And what kind of work did your father do?
He was a plasterer. Worked on the Empire State and other big buildings. The city was being built up.
Uh-huh. And whereabouts did you go to school?
I went to a public school 72, graduated from there, and went to a trade school, Samuel Gunkers, on Southern Boulevard in the Bronx.
Uh-huh. And what year was this?
Somewhere around 1939, I guess.
Okay. So you were out of high school when you heard about Pearl Harbor?
Oh, I was in the service.
Oh, you were.
Pearl Harbor was bombed.
Okay.
I had left high school and went into the CCC. And then
what was that like? That was the Civilian Conservation Corps?
Civilian Conservation Corps. It was a good outfit. We did a lot of work. I was sent out to Idaho and we fought forest fires, planted trees in the areas that were burnt out, and did road work and all that.
Uh-huh. Now, how long were you in that?
I was there, I think it was 6 months, almost a year. Then I left there and I went into the Navy.
Okay. And where did you go for your initial training or basic training?
Newport, Rhode Island.
Uh-huh. And how long was that training for?
3 months. 3 months, yeah.
Uh-huh.
12 weeks.
Now, I've heard from other veterans that that were in the Navy, it was kind of tough in basic, learning how to sleep in a hammock. Did you have to do that?
Oh yeah, we had to sleep in a hammock. We had to learn how to sleep in a hammock. Once you learned, it was very easy.
Uh-huh.
And my last, while I was waiting to be sent out to the fleet, I was stationed aboard the old USS Constitution.
Oh, really?
And I lived on that for about 2 weeks. And there you really needed a hammock, because there weren't any bunks or anything. So you had to learn to really sleep in a hammock. And when I got aboard ship, we did use a lot of hammocks. Of course, today I know to use bunks, but we used hammocks.
Now, what kind of specialty training did they give you in the Navy?
I really didn't have any specialty training. It was, the Army and the Navy was at that time. I was assigned to the old USS New York, and all the trainees put aboard her, or was going to be aboard her, and they just came down the line and stopped and said, "You're in the engineering division, you're in the deck force," and you just were assigned to that, and you got your training from there on.
Okay, tell us about the type of work you did aboard ship.
Well, when I first went in, I was assigned to, I was the engineer, trained on just running the engines in the motor whale boats, the launches that ferried crew back and forth in the harbors. And from there I went on to various other things in the Navy, and I ended up as in the fire rooms, always in the fire rooms, manning the boilers, taking care of the boilers.
That must have been pretty tough work down there, wasn't it?
It was tough work because when I was down in the South Pacific, it was extremely hot. And one of the ships that I was on was called Forced Draft, and we took the air from the outside so that the boilers could be fed air. So you got that warm air coming on you, and then the heated boilers. So it was usually down in that area. It was about 110, somewhere in there. You're always under that extreme heat.
Mm-hmm.
And then as the years went by, they got what they call encased boilers, where the air was encased in the boiler. So it wasn't on, pressure was not on you.
Uh-huh. Now, when did you go over to the European theater?
Well,
Can you tell us anything about that, the trip over, or what you
when I was
did?
assigned to New York, she went up to Iceland, Newfoundland, and then there. I'll just give you a little rundown. And from there, I went to, I was taken off to New York and assigned to what they call Base Bobcat, because it was a code name. They didn't want it to be known, but it was now, today it's known as Bora Bora.
Mm-hmm.
And I was sent out to Bora Bora. They were building the oil base out there. And I was in Bora Bora for a while, and I got on the ship, USS Ramapo.
Now, what kind of ship was that?
That was an oil tanker.
Mm-hmm.
And she went back to the coast, west coast. St. Pedro was a home port. And she supplied the fleet. It was a fleet oil tanker. And I stayed aboard there, I don't recall how long, a year or whatever it was, in the fire rooms, made my ratings on her. When I left the Ramapo, I got aboard a destroyer, the USS Harding, DD 625. She stayed on the west coast for a bit, and then went down to the Panama Canal, and to Norfolk, and then over to Casablanca. Casablanca, she came back, and I had made a rating of watertender second class, and they sent me to the Naval Boiler and Turbine Lab for more training in boilers. There I went aboard a brand new construction, the Morrison, the USS Morrison, a DD 798. And she left the East Coast and went to the West Coast.
Now, what kind of ship was the
They were
ship?
both destroyers.
Okay.
The Harding was a destroyer, and the Munson was a destroyer. And then we went out to Pearl. And Pearl we went on. Back out to the Pacific again.
Now, in Pearl, was there still a lot of destruction visible at that
Well, at
point?
that time it was 1944.
Uh-huh. So they cleaned up most
Yeah,
of it?
most of it was pretty well cleaned up.
Uh-huh.
But, we did our more or less train for the invasion of Saipan. And Saipan, that's where we went out. It was our first invasion on the USS Morrison.
Mm-hmm.
From Saipan right up to Tokyo. We were out there. So any of those, Saipan, Tinian, Guam, Iwo Jima, Okinawa, the first battle of the Philippine Sea, the Philippines, Leyte Gulf, I was in the whole thing.
Uh-huh.
On that.
It must have been quite an experience. Did you have any problems with like kamikazes or?
Oh yeah, I was in, we had problems, a lot of them, the kamikazes off of Okinawa.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, we were not hit, but we came mighty close a couple of
Uh-huh.
times where we were able to down the plane or just went into the water.
Uh-huh.
But I'd say they're within 25 yards with missiles. But there was a lot of kamikaze planes out there at that time.
Mm-hmm. Any contact with any Japanese ships or submarines? Or?
Well, the closest I'd say in contact was in the Battle of Surigao Straight,
Mm-hmm.
where we had invaded, MacArthur had invaded the Philippines. And the Japanese knew it. And they came down, they were going to stop it. And they came down from the north, and they came down through the southwest. And they were going to come into Surigao Straight. And I didn't learn until after the battle was over that we had some of the old battleships that were in Pearl Harbor that were hit, were refurbished and put back out there. But we were to guard Surigao Strait, and they came down with their task force, all right. Japanese battleship, 2 battleships I think it was, a couple of cruisers and destroyers. And they started up through the strait, and they were spotted by one of our subs, a Navy sub, and a PT boat which tried to deter them, and it did, but it didn't stop them. And they come on up into the strait when the commander of the task force knew that they were coming in, had assigned us to, we had to stop them. It was very imperative that we stop them.
Uh-huh.
So my squadron was assigned to make a torpedo run on them. And we knew they were coming up because we had radar and I was tracking them and tracking them. And they did come up. And we did make a torpedo run on them about 2:30 in the morning. There was 3 other destroyers, sorry, 2 other destroyers of mine on one side and 3 other destroyers on the other side that knew they were coming up. And we did launch torpedoes at them. And I don't know exactly what the yardage was, but it was fairly close. You could see, this was all done at night. And when we did hit them, and you know, everything, the explosions and all that was going on, they had big searchlights and trained them on us. We did, a couple of our torpedoes did hit the battleship to help sink it. The one in front of us, McDermott, launched some fish into the battleship. Eventually she sank. But when they played the searchlight on us, we made, you know, destroyers are fairly fast when they want to be. And we were told that, you know, flank speed to get out of there. And then it was up to the outlying cruisers and battleships that had formed the line, and they started throwing shells into them, so they knew they were there. The end result was that we had definitely stopped them. We sunk the battleship and some cruisers and some destroyers. So it was a fairly big battle, the Battle of Surigao Strait, a naval battle that apparently you're not going to see today because everything was missiles and guided missiles. This was very close contact. I'd say we were somewhere within 1,000 yards of this battleship to launch torpedoes to be effective. And that was just one of the battles. And the Battle of the Philippine Sea was what you probably know today as the Marianas Turkey Shoot. It was, well, we were off Saipan, and we were covering the Marines that were in there. Japanese decided to come down. And I guess they thought they were going to wipe us out, and we went off to meet them. And it was a big naval engagement. Most of it was done by carriers and planes. And we were able to put the skids to their fleet. And it was really the first naval battle that, not the first, because Midway was one, but it was a naval battle that really put a dent in the Japanese Navy. But from then on, they were always active.
Were you able to watch any of this, or were you always down?
Yeah, no, we were attacked by planes in the Battle of the Philippine Sea. Japanese Zeros were always, we had downed quite a few, and we were there to protect the carriers, cruisers, and whatever large ships. And we used our aircraft to protect them from going into them, and we were able to down quite a few planes. It was a very big engagement. But it was mostly air that I remember. There was no real naval surface engagements. It was all air, done by air.
Must have been pretty exciting for a young man at the time to be a part of all of this.
Well, to tell you the truth, when things start to happen, I guess you don't really think. You just do
your job.
You know, and you're down there in the fire rooms, and bells are ringing because you're always changing speeds, and things are happening. You're lighting off boilers, burners, cutting them out, and watching your pressures that don't, blow the safeties and all that. So you're very well occupied in what you're doing. To be just standing there and watching, you don't get much chance to do that. The ones who would do that would probably be the people on the bridge that are directing everything. They kind of know more what's going on. You're just, even if you're in a gun turret, you're passing ammunition, or you're doing something. You don't get a chance to just stand and gaze around. There's none of that. So you don't get to think much, I guess, about it until it's over. And when it's over, then you start thinking about what really happened. And it is exciting well, I was 20-year-old when I was a water lieutenant first class. I'm 20 years old. I'm training Naval Reserves that come aboard. They were only in a year or two. They didn't know. So for a 20-year-old, it was quite the thing.
Did you ever go through any tornadoes or?
Yes, we did. We had the tornadoes off of the Philippines, where a couple of our destroyers at that time, they claim it was Halsey's fault that instead of steering us out of the tornado,
I guess I meant to say typhoon.
Typhoon it was, that he steered us more or less into it. He was supposedly, I understand, reprimanded, but that was a very frightening thing, because I know I myself, on a destroyer, which is much smaller than a battleship or even a carrier, they were bouncing around. We have these, I guess they call them inclinometers that go back and forth as the ship rolls. We would roll to almost 45. The water, everything was, I thought we were going to turn over too. And if I remember correctly, I think we did lose 3 destroyers that weren't able to take on ballast or didn't have sufficient time, and they turned over. Fortunately, we got through it. But the carriers, some of them would bash their decks like they were nothing. They were all metal. So the typhoon we did hit was very, very bad. But I survived that too.
Whereabouts were you when they dropped the atomic bomb?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't remember. I know, I'll tell you probably where I was. We were assigned prior to the very end, that was right after the atomic bomb, they surrendered. We were up shelling Hokkaido in the northern end of Japan, where the Aleutians come way down, and then the Japanese islands go up. And we were shelling steel plants and stuff like that that was off the coast. And then we were told then the war ended.
Must have been quite a bit of excitement on the ship.
Well, that ship, fortunately, was almost into everything. It was kind of called on for everything.
Now, you were over in the Pacific area when the war ended in Europe, correct?
Yeah.
Now, what did you think when Germany surrendered? Did you know it? Did you think it was just going to be a short period of time before Japan fell, or did you think the war might go on for a couple more years?
The thing of it, I never even thought the war was going to go on as long as it did. And we were glad to see the VE Day. We figured, I guess, that there was something. We knew we were making progress with Japan, that we were putting them down, and they weren't as mighty as they were at Pearl. But I somehow didn't give it a thought as to when the war was going to end. It just, I don't know, it never occurred to me. I guess because it was always there, I knew it had to end. But the day it ended, it was a big, really relief. Because you knew that no matter where you went, you weren't going to be attacked by a submarine or something else. Maybe be wiped off the face of the earth. But,
Now, once the war ended, where did you go? I mean, did you head back to the West Coast, or?
I'm trying to remember where. I believe we went somewhere up into the Aleutians. We didn't get to Tokyo for the surrender, I know that. Yep, we were off Japan and then proceeded back. And
what kind of reception did you get when you hit port?
Nothing, we just come in docked.
There was no brass bands or?
No bands, no fanfare, no nothing.
No.
Just come in and docked, and my time then was, of course, all the guys that were on there were drafted. They were counting their points and they were going to get off. I had signed up for X amount of time, and my time was then up. And at that time, I did not have a desire to re-enlist.
Mm-hmm. This was in 1946?
Yeah. So I elected to go home. And they sent me back home to the East Coast. I got 30 days leave, I believe it was, and then I was assigned to another ship, the Anthedon, was a subtender. I was on that a few months, and then my time had expired. I ended up at Leyte Beach and then discharged. So I was in from 1940 to 46.
What did you do after the war?
After the war, good question. I tried to get a job with boiler work, but it was impossible there in New York. I ended up in construction, and then I ended up in New York City Fire Department. And I put my time in the New York City Fire Department.
That must have been pretty exciting work.
That was a very exciting job, too. And my time came for that, after that. And they had a program where I entered, and I became an RN. I got an RN license.
Oh, really?
And I went to work in New York Hospital for about 15 years as a registered nurse. Then I retired. Didn't particularly like that, but ended up with a part-time job driving hearses and limousines. Did that for about 6 more years. Until I finally decided that was it.
Now, I take it at some point you got married after the war.
Oh yeah, I got married in, oh boy. 53, I think it was. 53, I know. Yeah, it's funny. My wife knows right away. She'd get mad because I can't remember our anniversary. I believe it was 53.
Now, and how many children?
I ended up with 2 children.
A boy and a girl, or
boy
2 boys?
Girl.
Okay. Any grandchildren?
Today I have 3 or 6, 7. 7 grandchildren. And one of them is in college today, so years have gone by.
Is there anything that stands out the most? Any of your wartime experience? Anything in particular?
Well, I guess the biggest thing was the Battle of Surigao Straight, because it's very rarely that destroyers are called on to make torpedo runs. And your chances of making a torpedo run are 0, that you're not going to come out of it. But fortunately, we come out of it. But very rarely do you see destroyers launch torpedoes. You might see submarines, but destroyers or cruisers. destroyers they're very exciting to be on because they're really the first line of defense. They protect everything else. Scouts of the fleet, they were called.
Mm-hmm.
And they were always, like when we were up off Japan in the kamikaze era, we were always out on the fringes to get whatever kamikazes would hit us to protect the carriers and the bigger ships that were in there.
What was a typical day like aboard ship, especially in the Pacific when you knew, you were in immediate danger of an attack? I mean, like, did you have a lot of drills going to battle stations, or?
I remember we were always usually drilling, so that things, when anything did happen, it was done automatically.
Mm-hmm.
Just bang, bang, bang. It was, like I say, you never got really time to think of what was going on.
Uh-huh.
Life at sea itself is very boring. It's standing a watch. What we call a watch. 4 hours of being in a room, a fire room, and watching your burners and your boilers, and watching gauging steam and keeping a steady steam pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, clean up, stuff like that.
Did you get much liberty time?
Well, fortunately, I didn't. Only when I came back to the coast, which was very rare.
Mm-hmm.
I was, most of the time, when I left the Harding, I went to the Monson. That was the only time I was around. Because when I left the Ramapo and went to the Harding, she put right out to sea.
Uh-huh.
She was out for quite a while. We never came back much.
What about, like, in the South Pacific? Did you?
We went to islands like Anthedon and Leyte and them, and they gave us what we call the 3+ beer. You went ashore in a launch, and there was nothing there for you to do.
Uh-huh.
So guys would end up playing softball, or sitting there and going around picking up seashells, and drinking their beer, and sometimes fighting with each other. Because there was very little to do on those islands. There was no recreation for you.
Uh-huh.
Now, the big ships was a different story. They had everything they wanted. You were a carrier or a battleship. They had soda fountains, barber shops, and we never had that on the smaller ships.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was confined to machinery spaces. The big ships were okay to be on, but I preferred the little ships.
Mm-hmm.
It was a little more,
A lot of camaraderie.
yeah, among the fellows. That's the Navy, and that's not, when you say I like the Navy, I don't think it was the Navy you were talking, it was the guys you were with.
Mm-hmm.
That was what we really liked.
You keep in touch with any?
Oh yeah, every year we have a reunion.
Uh-huh.
And this year we're going down to Jacksonville for a few days. And we all get together and just,
Relive the old times.
yeah, back and forth.
Now, do you know what eventually happened to your ship?
Oh yes, I do know. I went through some things that you can. She was eventually put out of commission. She was, after World War II, she went into mothballs, I believe, and it was brought out during the Korean War,
Mm-hmm.
and fought in the Korean War, I mean. And then they were moving her up somewhere along the Jersey coast. She ran around, and they had to tow her off. And then she was just decommissioned, put out of service.
Uh-huh.
I guess they scrapped it, like they did all the other ships.
Okay. Any final thoughts? Do you think any regrets? You feel that? Well, I know you're proud of your service. You think we did the right thing, being involved in to the extent we were?
Well, I have no regrets. I always did like the Navy. When I first went in, I had a little trouble, adjusting from a young 17-year-old
Mm-hmm.
signed in for my father. But after I got adjusted into the Navy, I fell into the Navy way, and I liked it. I have no regrets as to what we did, because I think it had to be done.
Right.
It was either, it's either you or me, and I'm sure it's not gonna be me if I can help it.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever you did, you did. No, I have no regrets as to what went on.
Do you belong to any other veterans organizations like the VFW? Or?
Yeah, I belong to the American Legion, the fire department post I got into. 930 post. I've been in there about 35 years or something like that. And I went to some there. But I'm not really an active person in the American Legion.
Mm-hmm.
I belong, I would support them and back them, but I don't know. I even belong to the Elks, but I'm just a member. I'm not an active member. I guess I like to be home around the house.
Anything else you'd like to add that we may have missed? Or any final thoughts?
Oh, yeah, you did ask me about Pearl. What it was like. I was at Pearl one day after it was bombed, and it was quite destructive. That's all I can say. It's something, you really know, when you see a mighty ship sunk, it's something really to witness, You almost feel like you want to sit down and cry. How could such a big thing like that happen to it? But it happened.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing any ship or anything like that, you wouldn't think it possible. But I'll tell you, I think it helped me a lot in learning how to do things.
Mm-hmm. It prepared you for,
Yeah.
I guess you grew up fairly fast.
Oh yeah, I did. You had to learn. And, like I said, my first year in the Navy was a little, edgy, and I had to learn to take orders.
Mm-hmm.
This is the way they want it, and you can't change it. You're going to have to do it their way.
Mm-hmm. Okay, anything else you'd like to add?
I don't think so.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Okay.
All right, and this is your crew or squad?
Yeah, this is the crew of the USS Morrison. And one where you see them all docked on, and that was VJ Day, where we were off Hokkaido, Japan, when that happened, and we came in to tie up, and then we left.
Okay. Now,
and it's just the crew, the mascot, there's a dog's picture in there, a black and white dog, I don't know if you can see that. But we did have a mascot. And it's more or less the crew of that ship. There's the captain, and then there's the executive officer. God rest his soul, he's dead. The captain's around somewhere, but he doesn't attend our reunions. I don't know why.
All right, I got it.
Okay?
Okay. Well, thanks again.
You're quite welcome.